Good morning. We are now into the last poem of your syllabus, Fern Hill by Dylan Thomas. This is again a very modern poem, a very different one from the ones you've read earlier. Here is a young poet remembering his childhood. And the poem is laden with imagery. As you can see in the title, Fern Hill indicates the countryside, the beauty of the countryside. I'll let you know the historical significance, if you may say so, of the title of this poem. About the poem. Dylan Thomas, he was born in Wales and he died in 1953. That is, he was less than 40. He was a Welsh poet, a prose writer, and his works are known for their comic exuberance, rhapsodic lilt, and pathos. He is famous for his lyrical and emotional poetry, as well as for his personal turbulent life. This is about the poem. Fern Hill was initially published by Thomas in a journal called Horizon Magazine. It was subsequently published as a part of his volume Deaths and Entrances. The title of the poem comes from Fern Hill, which is the house in Carmarthenshire, which was owned by his uncle and aunt. The poet spent much of his childhood at Fern Hill and he loved his stay there, and it was usually during the holidays and some extended visits too. Talking of the structure of the poem Fern Hill is written as 6 stanzas containing 9 lines each. It is subtle and the flow relies on the half rhymes as well as internal rhymes as opposed to the full rhymes at the end of each line. The lack of structure, which you may call, is used to a great effect and it evokes and mimics the way memory wanders. It's a poem about time, about the passage of time, about memory. So you have recurring images of time coming throughout the poem. What's the theme? For Dylan Thomas, the passage of time was an idea worth exploring. This is a poem about time, about the passage of time. It thus came out in form of his poem called Fern Hill. In the poem, Thomas explores his past and views times gone by with unmistakable fondness and brings the full weight of his literary talent into sharing that feeling with his reader. It is almost autobiographical, and you have the reader also sharing some of his memories. More importantly, he invites the reader to look back on their own life and to consider their past, present, and future with a warm and critical gaze. Role of time in the poem. Coming to the role of time, one loves recalling the past. When you're talking amongst friends, or sometimes even within your family or within your extended family, You generally talk of the good old days of the past. You have your grandparents talk about their days. Similarly, you, though you're young, you would love to talk about the times when you could play together, when you had a carefree time where you could enjoy most of the time, or your visits to your grandparents, maternal grandparents especially. Uh, so it's not something very new, but the way the poet brings it before you compels you to think about time. Recalling the past is an immediately clear theme, as it begins with the phrase, now as I was young. The poet, you see, a poet who died when he was barely 39, recalls his past means he recalls his childhood. The first two stanzas introduce two main characters that serve the basis of the work. There are two characters, the narrator and the time. Narrator, there's the first person narrator, the poet. The concept of time is personified. It is not a complete personification though, in the sense that Thomas gives time physical attributes, but rather depicts time as being a parent or a guardian figure which allowed him to embark on the adventures his narrator describes. Here's a summary of the poem. The first two stanzas describe the poet's adventures. The entire introduction to the poem is filled with the language that is easily interpreted as joyous, even as the story itself moves rapidly from image to image and adventure to adventure. Recalling the events of his childhood leads the narrator to feel the happiness and to associate each memory with fondness and laughter, and he shares it with the readers. The next two stanzas amplify the joy expressed in the first two stanzas. The fifth stanza uses positive imagery and symbols that represent that happiness. In the sixth stanza, however, Dylan Thomas brings the story back to the present. So, this is a brief description of the six stanzas. Here are some lines suggestive of a happy childhood, which he will present in the poem as you can make note of when I explain the poem line by line. Happy as the grass was green, as I was green and carefree. He uses vibrant colors such as green and golden. He describes activities like singing, playing, and being careful, all which symbolize happiness and carefree attitude in life. I now begin the poem. Here is the paraphrase, an explanation, line by line. You will find the landscape of Fernhill. Now, as I was young and easy under the apple boughs, about the lilting house, and happy as the grass was green, the night above, the dingle starry, time let me hail and climb, golden in the heydays of his eyes. And honoured among wagons I was prince of the apple towns, and once below a time I lordly had the trees and leaves, trail with daisies and barley, down the rivers of the windfall light. You had lost these lovely nature images in the last few poems, but it has come back now, and you see, as Thomas explains, when he was young and easy, and he was under the apple boughs. There were many apple trees in this place called Fernhill. There was this lilting house, and he felt as happy as the grass was green. It was greenery all around. I've told you earlier that Wales is known for its natural beauty. So just type Wales and see, uh, you can get many images of the Welsh countryside. The night about the Dingle Starry, as the weather was also wonderful, time let me hail and climb golden in the heydays of his eyes. You see, time is personified here, and he says that time allowed him to enjoy and climb golden in the heydays of his eyes, and climb in a golden way. The colors green and gold come again and again. And honored among wagons, I was prince of the apple towns. He says that he was very much honored amongst the wagons. Why? Because whenever he sat on the wagon, he felt that he was the prince of the apple towns. So wagons are used to cart the apples from one place to another. So he might be contributing a bit to it. Even for fun, he might be riding on the wagons. But then at that time, he felt the lord of everything. He felt that he was a prince. And once below a time I lordly had the trees and leaves trail with daisies and barley down the rivers of the windfall night. And he says, see, time, above the time, below the time. It was all that time. He particularly uses uh, such striking prepositions here. A time I lordly at the trees and leaves trail with the daisies and barley. Sometimes he would just, for fun, he would drag some uh, the fallen leaves and uh, the the light branches along with the leaves. He used to trail them down the rivers. So that was all again an indication of merrymaking. And as I was green and carefree, famous among the barns, about the happy yard, and singing as the farm was home, in the sun that is young once only, time let me play and be golden in the mercy of his means. And green and golden I was huntsman and herdsman. The calves sang to my horn, the foxes on the hills barked clear and cold, and the Sabbath rang slowly in the pebbles of the holy streams. See, again, he reiterates it was that childhood time when he was green and carefree. He was famous among the barns because he could be spotted anywhere. He would always volunteer to play. He was happy about the yard and singing as the farm was home. He could sing, he could dance, he could go merrymaking, and the farm was his home. He felt it was all his. Where in the sun that is one young once only. Look at this line. In the sun that is young once only. Will the sun rise only one day? No. It's that time of childhood where the sun is young once only, not in later life. Golden in the mercy of his means, that is, even the sun is allowing him to be playful. And green and golden I was, both huntsman and herdsman. He was both herdsman and huntsman when he used to take some of the cattle to the fields, or sometimes he would go hunting. The calves sang to my horn. He felt like lord of everything. So it was these calves, he used to play the horn, and the calves used to respond. And the foxes on the hills barked clear and cold. And there were several foxes uh, on the hills, which seemed also to respond, which barked, and you could hear them. And the Sabbath ran slowly. See, the poet brings in Christianity. Sabbath is actually observing the seventh day of the week as a rest day. But here it means that it ran slowly. The seventh day seemed to come very slowly in the pebbles of the holy streams. He could be there near the streams and he could enjoy there. So he was carefree. He didn't worry about the passage of time. He felt, let time take its course. That was the best time of his life. All the sun long it was running. It was lovely. The hay fields high as the house, the tunes from the chimneys, it was air and plain, lovely and watery, and fire green as grass, and nightly under the simple stars, as I rode to sleep, the owls were bearing the farm away. All the moon long I heard, blessed among the stables, the night jars flying with the ricks and the horses flashing into the dark. You will find two again surprising phrases in this stanza. All the sun long and all the moon long. All the sun long means the daytime. All the moon long means the night. All the sun long it was running. That means time was passing very conveniently. It was lovely. The hay fields high as the house. The fields, the hay on the fields had risen right up to the size of the house. And the tunes from the chimneys, it was air. And as the breeze blew, there was music coming out of the chimneys and playing lovely, watery, and fire green as grass. He spent most of his time playing. He felt lovely. He felt watery. That is, he didn't feel devoid of anything. And fire was as green as grass. And even fire was not that fiery. Fire was not red or orange. It was also very bearable in the daytime. It was green as grass. Look at this imagery. And nightly under the simple stars, as I rode to sleep, and when he used to sleep, probably he used to sleep outside. You might also remember your youth when you wanted to sleep, when you spent some times sleeping on the terrace or just outside uh, the house, and it's more often a phenomena in the countryside. You are not much used to it today. He felt as he was sleeping, looking at the stars, he had a dream that the owls had borne the farm away. The owls were bearing the farm away. All the moon long I heard, blessed among stables, the night jars flying with the ricks and the horses flashing into the dark. See, if the farm is borne away by the owls, this is a sort of a funny dream. The night jars, they were also flying, taking everything away, and the horses were disappearing into the dark. The horses is again a symbol of movement, symbol of strength, symbol of moving forward. The horses were flashing into the dark. And then to awake and the farm like a wanderer, white with dew, came back, the cock on his shoulder. It was all shining. It was Adam and the maiden, the sky gathered again, and the sun grew round that very day. So it must have been after the birth of the simple light in the first spinning place, the spellbound horses walking warm out of the winning green stable on to the fields of praise. See, this is again a surprising stanza. This says, and then as he awoke early in the morning, he felt that the farm had gone somewhere. These are all childlike dreams. The farm had disappeared in the night, the owls had taken away, but in the morning the farm freed itself from the clutches of the owl and came back like a wanderer, and it was white with dew. There were dewdrops on the farm. It had come back with a cock on the shoulder because it was morning, so he imagines that it had come back with a cock on his shoulder. It was all shining, it was all sparkling, it was all bright. It was Adam and the maiden. See, it seemed that he had attained that plane. It was all heavenly, it was all like God's first creation, wherein God created Adam and Eve. He is a boy, a child, a young boy who doesn't mention Eve, who doesn't mention the woman figure. He says Adam and the maiden. So he says Adam and the maiden. It was almost like that, as if they were spending their time comfortably in the Garden of Eden. This is a biblical allusion. Note that. The sky gathered again, and the sun grew round that very day. It was all, the sky was as it is, as blue as the backdrop I've put in here to to these slides. And the sun grew round that very day. And it was all bright and sunny. So it must have been after the birth of the simple light in the first spinning place. So it must have been. He says, when God created man, when God created Adam and Eve, it must have been like that. There must have been this kind of sudden light. He felt that sudden light coming in. And it was the spellbound horses walking out and running towards the fields. And honored among foxes and peasants, by the gay house, under the new made clouds, and happy as the heart was long, in the sun born over and over, I ran my heedless ways. My wishes raced through the house hey, and nothing I cared at my blue sky blue trades that time allows in all his tuneful turning, so few and such morning songs before the children green and golden follow him out of grace. See, this is almost like a conclusion of the first four stanzas. He says, he felt honored among foxes and the other animals around, in the bright gay house, in the lively house, under the new made clouds, and happy as the heart was long. He felt very happy. It was new clouds every day, new sun, new moon every day. In the sun born over and over. It was day after day. It was a new sun being born. That is a new sunrise each day. I ran my heedless ways. He went on and on. He did not have to worry about the strifes in present times. My wishes raced through the house high hay. His wishes also seemed to run high as the hay. And nothing I cared at my sky blue trades. And he didn't worry about. The sky blue trades, everything was innocent, everything was simple. He did not have to worry, he did not have to manipulate, he did not have to plan for things that time allows before the children green and golden follow him out of grace. It's all, I experienced all that I could that time allowed in that period of innocence. And suddenly, what happens? After a few years, the children fall out of grace of God, out of grace of heaven, because they lose they lose all that is green and golden in their lives. Nothing I cared in the lamb white days. See, lamb white is again an expression of purity, innocence, that time would take me up to the swallow thronged loft by the shadow of my hand, in the moon that is always rising. Now that riding to sleep, I should hear him fly with the high fields and wake to the farm forever fled from the childless land. Oh, as I was young and easy in the mercy of his means, time held me green and dying, though I sang in my chains like the sea. He is now jolted back to the present. In the sixth stanza, in the last stanza, he says, nothing I cared. It was those times when nothing I cared. Time would not take anything from me. Those were the innocent days, those were the lamb white days. And there was the swallow thronging loftily, thronging high, and the moon also seemed to be rising. Moon is again silvery, white. Moon also seemed to be rising. Nor that riding to sleep. It was riding, but riding to a comfortable sleep. I should hear him fly with the high fields. So I could feel that even the moon was flying with the high fields. And wake to the farm forever, fled from the childless hand. And this time the waking is different, as the waking a couple of stanzas before. When he woke up, he felt that the hijacked farm had come back as a wanderer with white dew on him and a cock on the shoulder. But this time, the farm is forever fled from this childless land. This land is childless, he has grown. So the farm is fled forever. Oh, as I was young and easy in the mercy of his means, time held me green and dying. At that time, when I was young and I was at the mercy of the time, time was like a mother to him. Time held him green, and but now it's dying, though I sang in my chains like the sea. But now I feel I'm all in chains, and in chains as the sea is in chains. The sea is free, but the sea also seems to be in chains. The sea is also not as free as it appears to be. It is the same situation with the poet who feels that he is also chained. You have the echo of Shelley, you have the echo of the earlier poets, and you see this chained feeling. You experience this in Scholar Gypsy too, and in the later poems too. You see, there are a number of literary devices used in the poem. The speaker or the narrator, who's the speaker? The speaker is the first person who is looking back at his childhood. The form and meter, it is an open verse. Each stanza has 9 lines, and the line 1 and 2 have 14 syllables, line 3 has 9 syllables, line 4 has 6 syllables, line 5 has 9 syllables. Line 6 and 7 again have 14 syllables, line 8 and 7 have 8 has 7 syllables and 9 has 9 syllables. You can go into details if you're structurally analyzing the poem. Otherwise, this information is enough, that it is an open verse, and the stanzas are 9 lined each, and they follow a typical pattern. Then you have similes like the wanderer white with the dew. Simile evokes the image of purity, which white often represents, and the innocence and the promise of new morning. In the chains like the sea, this is again mournful. This shows control. There is the moon. The moon is bright, but it also exercises control. There is assonance in the poem. There are slant rhymes. There is alliteration. mercy of his means, huntsman and the herdsman, clear and cold, and then you have references, allusions to Adam and Eve, and the playing of the horn, personification, the lilting house, time, sun, moon. Thus you see that it's a very rich poem, though it sounds very simple when you paraphrase the poem. The context and the imagery make it a wonderful poem. I put in a few question and answers for you. Can you explain how Dylan Thomas's Fernhill reflects the joys of the childhood? What is the tone of the speaker? Is the experience described in Fernhill by Dylan Thomas described as a universal experience? What is your opinion? Uh, will the reader feel the same or somewhere close to it? How has childhood been glorified in the poem? Here are some questions. Read the poem again and again. Look for the paraphrase, the summary, and then you will be able to explain the poem line by line. Thank you. Have a nice day and have a good bit of reading too. Thank you.